I'll never forget the reflection of my stunned face in the shiny lid of my grill, lit up by the red and blue flashes of police lights cutting through the dusk in my backyard. There I was, just flipping burgers for a handful of buddies, the sizzle of meat mingling with laughter, when two officers strolled through my side gate like they owned the place. My tongs froze mid-air, a burger dangling precariously, as one cop approached, notepad in hand, his face all business. "Sir, we've had a complaint about illegal open flames on this property," he said, his voice flat, like he'd recited this line 100 times. I stood there, mouth flapping like a fish out of water, gesturing at my perfectly normal Weber grill. Illegal flames? This was a barbecue, not a bonfire. Before I could cobble together a defense, the second officer's gaze shifted past me, locking onto something across the street. My eyes followed his, and there it was, an absolute inferno blazing in my neighbor's yard, flames licking 3 feet high, unattended, dangerously close to a low-hanging tree branch. A sly grin crept onto my face as I said, "That fire pit belongs to Linda Harris. She's the HOA president who called you about my grill." I'd only been in Maple Grove for 3 weeks, still riding the high of buying my first home. The neighborhood screamed suburban perfection. Quiet streets, manicured lawns, a community pool just a short walk away. The realtor had mentioned an active homeowners association, but swore they were chill. Yeah, that should have been my first red flag. 2 days after moving in, my next-door neighbor, Tom, swung by with a welcome basket full of muffins and local coffee. We hit it off, chatting about the area, but then his face turned serious. "Look, man, you need to watch out for Linda," he said, dropping his voice like we were plotting a heist. "She's the HOA president, and she's intense. Last year, she fined the Wilsons for leaving their trash cans out an hour past pickup. And the Guptas? They hung fairy lights for a holiday, and she showed up with a light meter to prove they broke some obscure brightness rule." I chuckled, thinking he was laying it on thick. "Come on, she can't be saw bad," I said. Tom just shook his head. "She's got a thing about outdoor parties. Says the noise messes with her Yorkie's delicate nerves. Her house is that one." He pointed across the street to a pristine colonial with hedges trimmed like they'd been measured with a ruler. "If you see her snapping pics of your yard, brace yourself." I thanked him but brushed it off. I mean, I'm a rule-following guy, a good neighbor. What could go wrong with a small barbecue to christen my new place? The day of the barbecue was perfect, 75 degrees, a light breeze, the kind of weather that begs for cold beers and grilled food. I'd invited just 5 friends, kept the music low enough to hear the birds chirping, and set up some chairs on the patio. The grill was heating up, the smell of charcoal in the air, when I noticed a shadow flicker behind the blinds in Linda's front window. The blinds twitched, and I caught a glimpse of someone staring right at my yard. Creepy, but I shook it off. We were just getting to the good part, burgers sizzling, drinks clinking when my backyard gate swung open with a bang. In marched a woman in her 50s, blonde hair cut into a razor-sharp bob, oversized sunglasses perched on her nose like she was auditioning for a reality show. She wore crisp white capris, a pastel cardigan, and a scowl that could sour lemonade. "Excuse me," she barked, cutting off our conversation like a judge slamming a gavel. "I'm Linda Harris, president of the Maple Grove Homeowners Association." She said it with the gravitas of someone announcing they ruled the world. My friends went silent, all eyes on her. I stood, wiping my hands on a napkin, trying to keep things friendly. "Hey, I'm Ethan, your new neighbor. Want a burger? We've got plenty." Her lips pursed into a thin line. "No, thank you. I'm here on SAW official HOA business SAW." She whipped out her phone and started reading from what looked like a digital rulebook, her voice dripping with authority. Section 12, Paragraph 4. Open flames are restricted to approved fixtures. Section 15, Paragraph 9. Smoke emissions must not cross property lines. And Section 8, Paragraph 16. No loud gatherings after dark. I blinked, trying to process the onslaught. "Ma'am, this is a standard grill, and it's barely 6:30 p.m. We're not loud, and I checked the HOA rules before this. There's nothing banning barbecues." Her eyes narrowed behind those giant sunglasses. Clearly, you didn't read closely enough. I've documented multiple SAW violations. She held up her phone, showing photos she'd snuck in my backyard like some kind of HOA spy. You have 15 minutes to shut down this grill and disperse, or I'll take further action. Before I could say another word, she spun on her heel and stormed out, Leah VYing us in stunned silence. My buddy Jake broke the tension with a grin. Well, she's a ray of sunshine. We all laughed, deciding to keep the party going. I'd read the HOA rules front to back twice. We were in the clear, and I wasn't about to let some power-tripping neighbor ruin my housewarming. Exactly 17 minutes later, I checked my watch. A police cruiser rolled up. Linda must have been counting the seconds, itching to dial 911 the moment her deadline passed. The officers walked into my yard, and I spotted Linda standing at the edge of her driveway, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won a war. I explained the situation to the first cop, keeping my cool. Officer, I get that you're doing your job, but if open flames are such a big deal, you might want to check that out. I pointed across the street, where Linda's fire pit roared, flames dancing dangerously close to a pile of dry leaves and her wooden deck chairs. The second officer, who'd been quiet until now, raised an eyebrow. Sir, carry on with your gathering. We need to look into something. They marched across the street, and Linda's smug grin vanished faster than you can say karma. She started flailing her arms, pointing at my house, but the cops were zeroed in on her fire pit. One pulled out his phone to snap photos while the other radioed something in. Linda's voice carried across the street, getting shriller by the second. I'm the HOA president. That fire pit is a certified model. This is completely different. My friends, I try not to gawk, but it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. One officer started writing in a citation book, and Linda's face turned a shade of red that rivaled her fire pit. 15 minutes later, one of the cops came back to my yard. Sir, sorry for the hassle. Your grill's fine proper distance from structures. Attended. No violations. Just a tip. Brush up on your HOA bylaws, but legally, you're good. I offered him a soda, which he waved off with a smile. As the cruiser pulled away, Linda stormed into her house, slamming the door so hard it echoed. My phone buzzed with a notification I'd somehow been added to the neighborhood group chat, and it was blowing up. Someone had seen the whole showdown and spilled the tea. Did Linda really call the cops on a barbecue while her fire pit was breaking actual fire codes? One message read. Pics of the citation. Anyone? Another chimed in. This is her fourth time calling the authorities on neighbors this month. Within an hour, neighbors started showing up at my barbecue, bringing chips, sodas, even a homemade potato salad. My little gathering turned into a full-blown block party, with everyone swapping their own Linda horror stories. Apparently, she'd been ruling Maple Grove like a dictator for 3 years, ever since she ran unopposed in a low-turnout HOA election. Around 9 p.m., Tom pulled me aside, grinning like he'd hit the jackpot. You're not going to believe this, he whispered, showing me his phone. Someone had leaked Linda's citation to the group chat. A Dulaw 500 fine for an unpermitted fire pit, excessive flame height, and creating a fire hazard. The next morning, Linda tried to save face with a group chat message, claiming it was all a misunderstanding and that she'd been inspecting neighborhood fire features as part of her HOA duties. Nobody bought it. The monthly HOA meeting was set for the following Tuesday, and I decided to go, curious to see how Linda would spin this disaster. The community center was packed usually. Only a handful showed up, but word of Linda's hypocrisy had drawn a crowd. She stood at the podium, trying to look composed, but her hands trembled as she shuffled her notes. When she reached the safety compliance REVYEW agenda item, a neighbor named Rachel stood up, her voice steady but sharp. Given recent events, I move we establish a fire safety policy that applies to everyone including board members. And I move we hold a special election for HOA president, since our current leadership seems to think rules are optional. The room exploded in applause. Linda's face went ghost white as the motion was seconded and passed with a landslide vote. When they tallied the votes to remove her, it was 47-1. No prizes for guessing who the lone holdout was. As Linda gathered her things, Barely holding back tears, she stopped by my chair. "I hope you're happy," she hissed, her voice venomous. "I've spent 3 years keeping this neighborhood's property values up, and this is my thanks sabotaged by a newbie who doesn't get how things work." Before I could respond, the new interim president called out, "Hey, Linda, don't forget to pay that due Law 500 fine. Wouldn't want extra penalties piling up." The room stifled laughs as Linda's face twisted with rage. She stormed out, and just like that, Maple Grove was free of her iron grip. That barbecue was supposed to be a quiet housewarming, but it ended up sparking a neighborhood rebellion. Linda's reign of terror was over, and for the first time, Maple Grove felt like a community, not a dictatorship. But it got me thinking, what do you think about HOAs? Are they a necessary EVYL to keep neighborhoods in check? Or do they just breed power-hungry Karens like Linda? Should neighbors have the right to grill in their own yards without someone playing rulebook cop? And here's a hot one. Was Linda just doing her job? Or was she a hypocrite who got what she deserved? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're team barbecue, and subscribe for more stories where the little guy wins. Let's get this debate sizzling.